Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. So I just wanted to do a live session, a Q&A session, and just see if any of you have got any questions. I should imagine you do. It's been a couple of weeks since my last confessional, so forgive me, I have sinned. I'm sorry I haven't been able to keep up. I'm extremely busy in work, and actually my wife is now extremely busy as well. She's a realtor here in the Northern California area, and the property market at the moment is crazy. So I've been helping her a little bit, and also working for myself. Malia, welcome. You're the first in there. Rita, buenos dias. Thrilled that you're online. Okay, so I'm gonna go through a few questions. Hold your questions. I should say this right at the beginning. Hold your questions right now, so that I can just cover one particular topic. And the topic I wanted to cover is just to make sure people understand the situation with regard to which cases are being scheduled right now. And I think that's a great confusion for DV2021 people. And some of the questions I'm getting make it very clear that people are still confused about that. So I'm going to show my screen for a second and just show something that should make this a little bit clearer. So 1 second here. Yeah, share. Okay, so I'm going to show a couple of things which will hopefully sort of explain things a little bit better. There are two places that we can get SEAC data from. The SEAC data is case status data. It's official case status data, but it's scraped, obtained from the source by a couple of different people. One is Save Diversity Visa. He's taking daily scrapes, I think, perhaps even twice a day, of the data to try and keep up to date. Now, his process is very clever, but it's not quite as accurate as the data we've seen before from Zarthisius. And so that's the other source of data which I tend to rely on. But Zarthisius is only taking his scrape of data twice a month. He could probably do more, but frankly, he doesn't really need to. Twice a month is adequate. So he tends to take it in the middle of the month and at the end of the month, or the beginning of the earliest part of the month. And so we can compare these two data sources. One of the things that the Save Diversity Visa data is useful for is seeing the latest up-to-date situation with regard to what cases have been scheduled. And he publishes this graphic which sort of shows this quite well. So I just want to go through this briefly, try and explain this a little bit, what this means. But basically, you can see that the highest point here for Africa, this is the Africa data we're looking at here, just over 100 cases, around about 110 cases there. And this is for each 500 cases, right? So up to case number around about 18,000, you can see that some cases have been scheduled. These are all scheduled cases. They've been scheduled by KCC at an embassy. The embassy has accepted it, and then they're either in transit, or they're ready, or they've been issued or refused, or they're on AP, right? So it's one of those statuses. And the yellow color down the bottom there is in transit cases. In transit means that KCC just sent the case to an embassy. The embassy hasn't yet updated the case as being accepted. It doesn't mean that they haven't accepted it. It's just the update of the SEAC data. The appointment is scheduled. When they accept the case and they mark the system that the embassy now has the case status then reads ready. And of course, it just sits on ready until the interview happens. Once the interview happens, it will either go to issued, hopefully, or refused, which could be a temporary refusal, or administrative processing, which is a temporary refusal. So what we're seeing is here in Africa, around about, at the very beginning, around about 100 cases per 500 cases have been scheduled, and that drops off pretty quickly. So after about case number 4,000 or so, As you can see here, I hope you're seeing this. Maybe I'll make this a little bit larger. As you're seeing that data, it will show that it's only the first 4,000 case numbers or so where even 100 case numbers have been scheduled for processing, and after that it sort of drops off, and we're talking about the 18,000 range. And then there are a few sporadic one cases here at 34,000 and something, here at 44,000, here at 55,000, and so on, even one case at 80,000. Now, simply because your embassy has accepted a case at 20,000 or 18,000, let's say, it doesn't mean that all cases under 18,000 have been scheduled. Not at your case, not at your embassy, nor at any other embassy. As you can see here, there is a sort of a lowering curve on which cases have been scheduled. And so, is there a logical reason for this? I just want to make this clear. No, there isn't a logical reason. If we look at Africa here, this data from Zarthisius shows that, and again, I'll make this bigger, shows that for Africa, the yellow color there, everything in blue is a hole, right? So the holes for Africa are around about 50%, up to 34,000 or so this year. That means every other case, roughly half of the cases, in 1,000 cases, 500 cases will be a non-existent number, a hole. So there should be 500 real cases for every 1,000, right? Now, Save Diversity Visa numbers are per 500 for Africa, EU, and Asia. They're 500 at a time. So where we were looking at 100 cases being scheduled, that's 100 cases out of 500 cases, and within the 500 cases, roughly 250 to 300 of those would be real cases, right? So the 100 that we're seeing in Africa is really not very many of the real cases. It's only a third of the real cases. Now, it is true to say that not all cases proceed with their process. A lot of people never proceed. I call those cases non-responses. So if we look at this data, and let's just put some numbers on this for Africa so it'll make it a little bit clearer. Let's say 55% of the case numbers, which would be 550 case numbers out of every 1,000 in Africa, are real cases. Out of those 550, I would expect 60% to respond. So that, just with rough numbers, that would be about 300 cases. So I would expect 300 people out of every 1,000 cases in Africa, up to case number 34,000, to want an interview. All right, 300 people. That's the number that we need to think about for a moment. And you can see that around about 100 cases have been scheduled for the first 4,000. Not even 100 cases per 500, and this is per 500. Okay, so understand that is that's 100, and you could consider that to be 200 or 20% out of 1,000, right? So so roughly, instead of 300, we're seeing about 200 that have been scheduled. In other words, this high peak that we're seeing here for the early cases, even that is not a complete satisfaction of every case that's out there that wants a schedule, and it very rapidly drops off. So we're getting, what's that, about 12%, when it goes down to here, 10% even. So we're seeing very low percentage. What is this going to mean? Well, you can look at it from Zarthisius's data point of view. This has the same data. You can see that there is case number activity here, scheduled cases, but there's a massive amount of this yellow color, which are cases. They're real cases, and roughly 60% of them would want interviews. So there are many thousands of cases that have not been scheduled yet. The 2NLs for that are being sent out for July are probably about finished now. We might see one or two, embassies more on Monday or Tuesday of this week, but pretty much we're done with 2NLs for July interviews. The next 2NLs that we'll see will be after the visa bulletin, which will be roughly in the middle of this month, in June. We'll see a visa bulletin again, and then we'll start seeing some more 2NL activity, and that will continue for another 2 to 3 weeks. But those interviews will be scheduling for August. Okay, so the August interviews are scheduled in June and perhaps early July, and then the final interviews will be scheduled. The September interviews, they'll be scheduled in July and perhaps the first few days of August. But we're very, very close to the end of the year here now. We only have 2 months of interviews left. I showed you Africa, same story in Europe. Very, very few cases, comparatively speaking, being scheduled. Same story in Asia. Oceania and SA are doing a little bit better. You can see they've got activity across their whole number range. It's not perfect, but it's better. That's largely because in Oceania, for example, Sydney Embassy in Australia and in New Zealand, both of those countries handled the COVID crisis very well. And so as a consequence, their embassies were able to get back to work much faster than some other embassies and have gone back to work at better speed, better pace than some other embassies. So that's been helpful. This is South America region. Again, you can see there is some activity all the way through the case number range, but again, nothing like complete. And with 2 months to go, we're not going to see a happy ending in this process. That should be fairly obvious by now. Okay, so hopefully that's explaining to you about how the data looks. Who will get scheduled at the moment? Well, it seems to be that they've given preference to low case numbers. That's not because they're trying to schedule only low case numbers. That is more because those low case numbers were the ones that they focused on in terms of document processing in the beginning, and for some months now. And so the ones that are being scheduled are cases that are documentarily qualified, ready for scheduling. In other words, they've received that email that says, congratulations, you're ready for scheduling, something along those lines. So those cases are being scheduled, but not all of them are being scheduled. There are too many of those cases. There are over 27,000 people that are documentarily qualified at this point, and nothing like 27,000 people will be interviewed. That could be changed by the lawsuits, but basically without the lawsuits, that's, we're not going to see a good result for those people. Okay. Couple of other things I want to address. I've heard a couple of wacky rumors. Number one, there's a rumor going around that that the only cases being scheduled are people with single, without family. That's bullshit. There's no other way of putting it. That's just nonsense. Again, you can look at the data and you can see that there are more cases being interviewed. There are cases being interviewed with derivatives. There just are. And so, you may have some data and you may have, 3 friends or 30 friends or whatever that will tell you the rumor, but the rumor is not true. There is no preference given, to cases with single applicants as opposed to family. There's no discrimination going on in that way. The only possible difference is that a person with a single case, without a derivative spouse and without adult children, is a little bit easier to process than the non-family case, right? If you've got 2 or 3 adults on a case, it could take a little bit longer for their documents to be processed than a single person's case. That's the only reason that there could be, a slight advantage for single cases. But the numbers don't support the rumor. Okay, they just don't, and a little bit of common sense would show you that. There's another rumor that I've heard that I'm hoping is true, but so far the data hasn't shown it, and that's that Ghana embassy is now scheduling cases. I've seen a couple of people claim that to be the case with their own case. That may be true, but it's a bit odd that we're not seeing it in the data yet. But of course, what we could be seeing is cases that go in transit, we don't know which embassy they're scheduled for yet. So it could be that Accra embassy, God bless them, haven't marked any of those cases as being received, and so that some of those Accra embassy cases could be actually in the Africa numbers as in transit, but not yet shown as the embassy. So Save Diversity Visa statistics don't show Accra embassy interviews yet, but it could just be a timing issue. So it's possible. That would be good news for our Ghanaian applicants, of course. Although, to be perfectly frank, Ghana is incredibly tough on its selectees. Refusals are very high in number there. 80% of cases are refused. So please, if you're going for interview there, prepare properly, prepare well, prepare your documentation. Don't think that this is a simple thing to go through. At most embassies it is, but unfortunately at Accra there's such high levels of fraud that the local embassy just becomes immune to bad documentation and just refuses cases left, right, and centre. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to go through. Let me just take off my hold the questions thing. Let me see if I can address a couple of questions. I get this question a lot, actually, Wissam. Is there any way to speak to you directly? Any phone number? No, I don't do that. Number one, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not charging for my time, and I'm extremely busy, right? So it helps me to answer questions that I can answer in public that can benefit more people. So if you've got a question, you should be able to phrase that question in a way that you can ask that question either here online or on my blog, etc. And there really shouldn't be a need for private questions. I occasionally do help people on a one-to-one basis, but it's very rare. I just don't have the time to do much of that. So, and I'm, for every 10 times people ask me if they can have that sort of private consultation, I'll find that probably one of those 10 cases actually needed it. The others were just being, I don't know, it just needed that, craved that individual attention, but it wasn't necessary. So, it's probably not necessary is what I'm trying to say. DV2021 is the worst in terms of statistics, and that's unfortunate. Yeah, it could end up being the worst. I mean, frankly, if you get a visa this year, you're doing very well. Just like DV2020, it's not going to be an easy thing, and there are some happy stories, but it's not going to be a happy ending for anything like the number of people it should be. Mata Vavule, I think. In the Oceania region, it's observed that cases scheduled for interview are for single people and couples without children. Yeah, again, it's bullshit. It's just not true. And you can just look at the data and find that that's not true. I don't know why this rumor won't die, because it's just very obvious to disprove that. But anyway, Riyadh Embassy is not scheduling interviews for families. There you go, same thing. You see, this is okay. Let me just show something here. So this is not going to go away unless I deal with it. I can see. Okay, so back on the on this information here, right? This is information from the official embassy website. So these two tables, I'm looking at the two tables. The first one on the left-hand side, the second one on the right-hand side here. This one is cases, not the actual people and visas, right? So this is total number of cases. 3,700 cases, right, are in this table of data. That 3,700 number represents 6,300 people, okay? Now, if there are 6,300 people on 3,700 cases, they're clearly not all single cases, are they? So it is not true as a total population that there's any preference given to single cases.
Now you'll say, yes, but at my embassy it's just, it's like that. Okay, well, let's have a look. I mean, the thing is, these embassy numbers are so small, you can't make an assumption when you're dealing with a handful of cases, 10 cases, 20 cases. The majority of cases, perhaps you don't understand this, but the majority of cases, if you take the number of cases, are single people cases. That's why the derivative rate is less than 2. And again, we can see the derivative rate on this page. The derivative rate visas per case is here. All of them are less than 2. And that shows you that the average case is a single person, because by the time you add in a spouse and a child or a couple of children, etc., so the cases where you have 3 or 4 people, there are less of those cases than there are the single people cases, right? But still, there are there are cases there. Now let's pick an embassy. You see, these are really too small to reliably look at this data, but I'm just looking at some of these. Someone mentioned Riyadh, right? I can't remember the 3-letter code for Riyadh, but let's see if I can figure it out. Is it Rid? Yeah, I can't remember. But that would be Africa. No. Where's Riyadh? Someone hopefully is telling me right now, it's this 3-letter abbreviation, but there's nothing in there in the R range that actually is enough numbers to actually make an assessment here. But nevertheless, you can have a look at these numbers, and as I say, at the highest level, when you're looking at the total set of data in every region, you can see that there are more people than cases, meaning there are cases where where families are being scheduled. It's just obvious from the data. Anyway, there you go. All right, so I'm probably going to get that question 15 more times, but never mind. It's I just don't accept it. What about Algeria? What do you think about interview over there? Algeria was one of the early embassies to restart processes. They've got quite a lot of people to process, so there's possibilities there. Jizu GMX, you've got an urgent question. How can I contact you? You just had an opportunity to ask me a question right there, but you chose to ask me a question about how you could contact me. Post your question here. Think about how to write it anonymously, and hopefully I'll answer it. Okay. Okay. My CN is 12,100 from Iran. KCC accept the change my embassy from Ankara to Yerevan. That's wonderful. Is there a chance for me to invite for interview? I can't comment on individual cases. What's going to happen in your individual case? It's great that you got KCC to agree to move the interview to Yerevan. But I can't predict your chances in any way. I don't have a crystal ball or any method to predict your chances. My guess is as good as your guess. Your guess is as good as mine, right? So it's just like that. Okay. And Majid, I hope you're not going to be one of these people that repeats your question 100 times. Chris, what do you think would be the best case scenario? Given the lawsuits for 2021, it's clear that the CN can't get processed. Yeah, this is a good question. Best case scenario, I think there are thousands of people signed up for the various mandamus lawsuits. And let me give you a clue how I see that going. So we've got the Go case, which I think probably has around about 1,000 people. I could have these numbers wrong. The mandamus case from Curtis Morrison and Co. that they just filed, or yeah, I think they just filed. I think we'll have about 5,000 people or so, maybe 6,000 people. Could be in that range. So between those cases, between those two lawsuits, there are several thousand people that the government will need to give a response about those cases to the judge when the judges are assigned and when they're working, as those lawsuits go through.
we've seen in the past the government do give priority to those sort of cases. They focus on the list of cases they're given because the judge will ask them to give a report, and the report will list every single applicant on that, on the list, the named plaintiffs. And so for a lot of those people, I think there will be scheduling activity. However, I don't think there's enough time to schedule all of those thousands of people. And that, in my mind, is a good thing, because what it means is that the judge dealing with that lawsuit at some point is going to have to sort of think about, how am I going to keep all these people protected? And it is about protection. So a mandamus lawsuit is mainly to get some action. That's what you're trying to achieve. But at some point, that same lawsuit can say, hang on a second, before the deadline of September 30th, we asked you, the court, for protection in this case and to force the government to do their job. The government will respond and say, there's no way we can schedule all of those people in the remaining time. And so, we can't do it, tough luck. And so the judge will then be faced with a decision where I hope he would say, well, okay, then we're going to do something like Judge Mehta did in DV2020, and we're going to preserve visas for issuance after September 30th. So that, I hope, will be the scenario. I don't know that will be the scenario. I can't say for sure that that will be the scenario, but the large number of people on the Good Luck case, which is Curtis Morrison's case, I believe will help us get that result. Okay. So, that's one of the reasons I was encouraging people to join that lawsuit. And frankly, for many people, it was a no-brainer. I don't know why some of you didn't join that lawsuit when I was advising you to do so. The Go lawsuit and the Go team are certainly an excellent team of lawyers, no doubt about it. But the Curtis Morrison lawsuit had the advantage for some countries where there was almost either no cost to join or a very small amount to join. It was a no-brainer, which is why I was advising people to join it. So that's the best case scenario that I see, Chris, that either those people on that lawsuit would be processed and adjudicated, right? But because I believe there's not enough time to do that, then I think that may lead us to extensions, and that's really, for me, that would be the ideal. I think the extensions might only benefit the named plaintiffs. That's possible, but it might also benefit more people than just the named plaintiffs. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we don't know if that gamble paid off in DV 2020 or not. We got the 9,095 visas reserved, but we can't be sure yet that those cases will be issued, because Judge Mehta has taken his sweet time in issuing his final decision about how those would be handled, right? So we don't know for sure if that preservation of visas will be effective, but it's the best shot we've got at the moment. So we're drowning and we're clutching at straws, right? That's the situation. Do you think KCC will process documents for Go plaintiffs before the July hearing? Stuck at KCC? Possibly. I think that the government doesn't like to be caught out doing nothing. And so, yes, they tend to focus on the lists of plaintiffs. They have been seen to do that before. We saw that in September, where they magically processed the documents of people that were not previously processed, simply because they were named plaintiffs. So yeah, it's possible. We'll have to see. And Sharif, we made it to the US last week. Winner DV 2021 from Africa. Do we have to apply for the social security card, or it will come in the mail without applying? We appreciate you signing. Well, congratulations and welcome to the USA, first of all. That's great news. In your DS260, you filled out, there was a couple of questions that said something about the social security number. It said something like, do you have a social security number, and do you want us to apply for one for you? If you selected that option, then theoretically your social security number should arrive at the address you gave in the DS260 within about 3 weeks of arrival. Sometimes it doesn't work, and you'll have to go to the Social Security office, and you'll have to apply there, and you have to work through the process. That's kind of tough, but generally speaking, you'll get it within about 3 weeks. That's usually how things work. Okay. DV2021 says, Lucy, you joined the Go. You hoping the judge won't wait 2 weeks before the end of September to pronounce himself. That's a very valid fear. But the process itself generally has the judge asking the government for reports on status about the individual cases. So that is the mandamus aspect of the case working. Just the judge giving the list to the government and saying, give me a status within a week or 2 weeks on that list of people, 1,000 people or whatever number it is, give me a status, show me what you're doing on those, show me that you're working with good faith on those cases, otherwise there'll be penalties, right? And so the government are very keen normally to go and find those cases and get on with the work for those cases. So they want to try and appear to be doing as much as they can. Mix MK songs. Can I stay or land in airport other address beside I mentioned in DS260? Well, the plane won't take you directly to the house that you list on the DS260, of course. So it can be a different address. I think you really mean a different airport state. Like, if you said you were going to live in North Carolina and the only flight you can find is arriving in New York, then yes, of course, you can arrive in New York and then take another flight or a train or a bus or get in a car, whatever you want to go to your final destination. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you arrive. It's not important. It doesn't matter. It's clear across the country. You can arrive in California and then go and live in Florida. There's no problem with that, apart from the fact that it's 2,500 miles, right? Marco, when do you expect the final judgment for the Jacob case for DV2021? Will it benefit the plaintiffs, even though there's only a few months left? I don't know. I did watch the last status hearing with Judge Chen. There were good things and bad things on that hearing, I thought. I don't know when I've ended trying to predict when judges will make decisions, because Judge Mehta, for example, just has taken a long time, and other judges that had normally had very quick decision turnaround times of 2 weeks and 3 weeks took a long time to make their decisions. It's an indication of how difficult the decisions are in this case. It may seem very simple and obvious to us, but their decisions are not obvious and not simple, so they're taking a long time, right? So I don't know when it will happen. I don't know what the outcome will be. I'm watching just as you are. Gloria, let's answer this. I received on May 26th an email from KCC that states my case is ready for scheduling. However, on the SEAC website, this case is still showing at MVC. At MVC, just to repeat, is the beginning status for all cases. At no time is any DV case ever at NVC. There's no handling of DV cases at MVC. But it's just the beginning status. It's just the status that is shown in SEAC, because the programmers weren't smart enough to figure out that it should say at KCC. And so it effectively means your case hasn't gone anywhere. That's all that means, right? I think you know that, Gloria. I'm just clarifying that for other people. Lovely family photo there, by the way, Gloria. And I see your husband has a haircut like mine. Almost no hair. I sent KCC to inquire about it, but didn't get a response yet. My question is it normal to see this discrepancy? And it's Cairo. In a normal year, it would be abnormal. You wouldn't be waiting this long, right? May 26th, yeah. So in a normal year, you would actually get a June 2NL pretty reliably. I could tell you, for example, that if your case number was current and you were ready for scheduling at May 26th, I would expect you to be in the next batch of 2NLs, which would, in your case, be in June, right? And that would be for August interviews. Now, this year, there are many cases waiting for interview at Cairo, and some of them would have been ready for scheduling far before your case, right, Gloria? So I'll be honest with you, your case, even though you're ready for scheduling, you are probably not going to get an interview unless you're on a lawsuit. Okay, your case number, is ready for scheduling, but it was later than I would imagine many other cases waiting for interview at Cairo. And Cairo, so far, Cairo probably has 3,000 cases it needs to interview, and let's say 2,000 of them are ready for scheduling. The majority of them would have been ready for scheduling far before yours, right? And so, the sad reality is, Gloria, that you're probably not going to get an interview unless you're on a lawsuit. So I hope you actually took advantage of one of those lawsuits. I'm sorry to break that news to you. Heartbreaking, actually, when you see family photos like that, and you know people are just looking for a new opportunity. It's heartbreaking, but anyway. Okay, police certificate is valid for 1 year. You're answering somebody else's question. Yes, and that's correct. Hi, Britt. I know what's going on your mind. Do you? That's good. Tell me what's going on in my mind. What about DV2020? Okay, Judge Mehta still hasn't made up his mind or announced his judgment, so we still are waiting for that. I don't have a date when that will be over. Judge Mehta is the judge, obviously, on the Go lawsuit, which has a final hearing date of July 13th, but it doesn't mean that we're going to have an answer in DV2020 on July 13th. It could be later than that. I just don't know. Rosie, I'm planning to get it done before the interview and provide that evidence to the CO. I've missed something here, obviously. There must have been an earlier. Oh, okay. You're asking a question about photos. Okay. Once you're through the selection process and you've received a letter, it seems like I haven't read the other part of your question, but it seems you're worried about the photo. It's very rare to get disqualified for the photo after selection, right? It's very rare. Because your photo is basically considered technically accurate at the time of entry, and if it isn't, you're never told that you're a selectee. You're pulled out, and that's what creates the holes, right? That's one of the reasons that the holes are created. So if you've got some minor problem with your photo, as long as it's not something as bad as, and I've seen this, where a husband and wife's photos are switched around in their two cases, that can cause a problem. Switching photos around like that can cause disqualification. But trivial, minor things like, you're worried about, I don't know, your hairdo, or did you have a smile and you're not supposed to smile, whatever, right? Those things don't normally cause disqualification. Okay. Jose Luis got his 2NL. I bet you're happy, Jose. CX shows in transit. Can't confirm the date because ASC location doesn't have any available dates. What? Will it change to ready on my embassy free ASC date so I can confirm the date? Okay, just to be clear about this, ASC, I'm not sure which embassy is ASC. But anyway, when you get your 2NL, it's an email saying go and check your SEAC account for your interview details. The interview details that you see on there is the interview date. That's the date, right? That's the date and time that your interview is set up for. Sometimes, occasionally, the embassies change that date and they'll contact you. But that is the date. Okay, it's not just a sort of, that's the accurate date. So behave as if that's your date. Okay. Between now and the interview, you have to arrange your medical. You have to get all your paperwork together, and make sure you follow the specific requirements of that embassy, which are detailed. If you read the instructions, they're detailed, through the embassy specific instructions. One of those things might be registering with the courier. When you register with the courier, some people think you have to create, that you're asking for another interview date. You're not asking for an interview date. You're simply creating an account. You're registering a date that you already have, which you were given from the CX system. Okay, so there's no problem with that. Make sure you don't get confused with that. Jose, if any of that isn't clear, perhaps you want to ask another question. Sammy, I'm called Daniel from Cameroon. How are you doing today? I'm doing very good. My middle name is Daniel, so I'm doing very well, thank you. Is there any 2NL sent for DV2021 to US Embassy in Cairo in July? I don't know specifically about July. Go check the Save Diversity Visas statistics, and you can use the time bar to figure out whether they've got new appointments, new 2NLs for Cairo. Okay, Cairo is CRO, right? I'm from Riyadh. There's been cases scheduled for interview, and there's higher than mine. Mine is 12,123X, and there is 15 and 17. Why is it happening? Amir, I think you actually asked this same question on my blog. I've got a feeling. It happens. It's a normal thing. Then those cases were probably ready for scheduling before your case, and you're all current now, right? And so you don't have a preference, or sorry, you don't have priority over a higher case number anymore. Once the case numbers are all current, your priority is gone. I've talked before about the chaos that would happen if they made all regions current, etc. This is one of the things that I've talked about. There are other aspects of what we're going through right now, which, in my opinion, are chaotic. But this is one of those things. So, it's normal. It's normal procedure when case numbers are all current. So that's what happened. Any predictions for DV 2022 situation? Right, firstly, for DV 2022, I don't know the number of selectees yet. Nobody does. We don't have that information. So a lot of people are asking, here's my case number for DV 2022 in this region or whatever. Is my case number high or low? Well, I can tell you that if you've got an EU 5,000 case, that's obviously low. You don't need to ask me that. The lowest numbers start at 1, and the highest numbers probably go up to 30 or 40,000 in the EU, probably 60, 70 or 80,000 in Africa, and so on. You can look at the previous year's data and figure out roughly what will be the case. But it is too soon to know what the case numbers, how the case numbers are, or how many selectees we have, etc. It's also too soon to try and predict what the COVID impact will be over the next year. No cases will happen for DV 2022 until October. And who knows what's going to be happening in October with COVID over, in all these other countries. I don't know. So it really is too soon to be making any assumptions or predictions about DV 2022 progress, what will happen, whether it will be a good year or a bad year. I do think we've got reason to be concerned because the COVID crisis is not over yet. It's much better in the USA now, but we've got a very good vaccination program. Some other countries have got good vaccination programs in place. And so that will switch off the crisis in those countries, largely speaking. But we're not really going to be out of this sort of problem for probably another year, I would imagine. So we can't predict, or I can't predict, what will happen because of COVID. Okay. Daniel, you've been missing me. I miss you too, Daniel. Could we be expecting in mid-June to see 2NL for July? Yes, not for, sorry. So for July, no, July 2NLs will normally have been sent out up until the end of last month. They have continued this past week, and they might continue for a few days this next week, Monday, Tuesday, perhaps Wednesday. But I don't think they're going to go on much longer than that, because the staff at KCC then around about the 8th of the month, 8th, 9th, 10th, they get to know the rough idea of what the capacity is at the embassies for scheduling, and they start to work on the next batch of cases. So they'll be switching their focus to August interviews, and that's why we start to see 2 NLs for August coming out shortly after the visa bulletin, which will be in middle of this month, right? So that's what will happen. Submitted DS260 on 2605, 26th of May. Goga. Wow. Are you a DV2020? It really helps whether you tell me whether you're DV2022 or which region or whatever. But you don't have confirmation email, but I have confirmation for all family members on the official site. Is there any problem? No, there's no problem. If you don't get the confirmation, but you can see that your DS260 is complete, it says the word complete, and you saw the confirmation at the end, then you're fine. You don't have to worry. There's no need for you to get worried about the confirmation email. Right, so your so Omar, your DV2022, can you add your children with ages more than 21 in the DS260? They cannot get visas as part of your case, but you should list them on your own DS260 because that's part of a longer term record that you're establishing with the USA. So that once you're a citizen, that paperwork that you've filled out, the DS260 that you filled out some years earlier, will establish the fact that you claim to have older children at that point, and you may be able to sponsor those children to come to the USA later on in life, right? It will take years, but that's why you add them on the DS260. Apart from the fact you're supposed to tell the absolute truth on the DS260, it's an official document, right? So yes, you've got children, you put them on your DS260, but you don't create a DS260 for those children because they cannot get visas with you. 2022, no idea. No predictions on when interviews will be. Is it possible, Anchor? Yeah, it's possible. I just don't know when. Do I think 2022 will be better than 2021? I certainly hope so. It's hard to imagine it being worse, but I suspect we'll continue to talk about lawyers and legal lawsuits and that sort of thing for some time to come. I think the interest we've seen from the lawyers over the last year or so will probably continue into DV 2022, I suspect. Nuri, KCC replied, my case number is current for interview processing, because I asked them if they're satisfied with the documents. Is it good news? And your case number is EU 4000. Yes, all of that is good news. It doesn't guarantee you an interview, but when they say you're current for interview processing, it means that you really are ready for scheduling, and they're actively trying to arrange your interview right now. That obviously depends on your embassy being open. So it really is a matter of whether your embassy is open or not. If your embassy is open, then yes, it's certainly a very positive sign. Fadi, would you please share your opinion about the good luck case and what's the possible outcome of it, especially we're getting closer to the end of the fiscal year? I think I covered that pretty well earlier, Fadi, so I'll leave it at that. And I think I answered this question earlier as well, Kanani Prince, which was, do I think the judge can extend the final date? I don't know for sure, but I hope so. And I explained my thinking about that earlier. Go back to the beginning if you want to hear me say that. Is it necessary to add your college address as part of your address to places you stay? No, for temporary addresses, like I used to travel for work a lot, right? So I lived in the UK. Believe it or not, for 5 years, I lived in the UK, and I was on the plane every 2 weeks coming to America, either to Florida or California, every 2 weeks, right? For 5 years, I did that. Now, whenever I came to California or Florida, I was staying in hotels. I would not give that address, right? My address would have been my UK address, right? That's that's how I would expect you to handle a college address as well. You give your home permanent address, right? Rani Sharma, I asked to unlock a week ago, but KCC did not respond. I found that the format of the date of birth was day, month, year, so I sent her an email again. Now will it be a problem? Yeah, they may not have responded because of your date of birth error. You're correct. But they're taking a week or 2 weeks at least to respond to unlocking requests at the moment.
Nothing's happening fast. They're obviously very busy. They've got the DV2022 cases coming in. They've got still people from DV2020 phoning them every 5 minutes. They're working on DV2021, and they're having to schedule interviews in an unusual way. They're very busy, and they're probably understaffed. So that's why they don't seem to be responding very quickly. What might happen if I submitted my DV2021 AOS package, but I didn't provide my bank statement? I read the instructions, and it seems like we don't need to provide financial evidence. Who the hell told you that? That's not true. Just because you read the instructions and it didn't mention financial evidence, that's daft. But what might happen? Well, you'll need to take that to the interview. You should always listen to the advice of experts rather than what you thought you read on the I-485. But prepare properly. I have seen cases disqualified, refused for lack of financial evidence. I've seen it. It's a stupid thing to let happen. Make sure you go to the interview properly prepared. I won the lottery this year, 2022. Can I have my children ages? Oh yeah, I think you already asked that, Omar. Happy to catch you live. Happy to catch you, Albert. Albert El Baba is your name. That's a nice name. Gav says, why the embassies do not do interview online? Do you think they're considering that? No, I heard that we've all been asking that question. Charlie Oppenheim strangely addressed that question. He seemed to indicate, and I'm not sure if this is really established in law, but he talked about the need to actually interview someone face to face. Now, that's not strictly speaking true, I would say, because I've known adjustment of status cases be approved without interview. Perhaps that's because they're in the USA. I've never known that outside of the USA, consular processing. I've never heard of that, where someone was given a visa without having an interview. But nevertheless, he was saying that it was important for the consular officers to actually see someone face to face, and not only important, but required of them. So I think that's bullshit, frankly. The whole world has figured out how to operate over Zoom and other sort of ways of working. Why couldn't they have done it? I don't know. Okay, so now I've done that thing where I scrolled and I've jumped past a bunch of questions, I think. So I'm sorry about this, but let me just answer a few more. Let's see. Okay, your 2021 Africa case number is 8200 or 8200. Received a mail that you're ready for scheduling. Can you have your interview? Maybe. I've answered a similar question earlier. Perhaps that refer to that. Case number is now current. Case is ready to schedule, but you didn't receive an email yet. And again, and you're in Abu Dhabi. I answered a very similar question just 2 or 3 minutes ago. Hopefully, it's the same. The same answer will help you. This is an interesting one. Sophia Vidal. And Sophia, you spell your name the same way as my daughter. What's the point of continuing DV lottery, i.e. 2022, if embassies and KCC are not working properly? It's required by law, Sophia. They can't just stop it. We're not a banana republic. The lottery process that is controlled by a set of laws, and they have to continue each year until that's stopped by laws, which will take some time to wind down. And the law doesn't state that they have to give away 55,000 visas, but they have to go through the process, right? And do the best they can. That's basically what the law states. So the point is, because they're required to follow the law. That's the answer. Hello, Britt. I have 2 names on my secondary school certificate and 3 names on my university degree certificate. Will it cause a problem? I want to swear an affidavit as soon as possible. Right. In some countries, this whole thing of swearing an affidavit is useful, I guess. If you're a liar and you swear an affidavit, then clearly that affidavit is bullshit. So I don't know
why that affidavit process is considered important in some countries, but it apparently is. But you're working on an American system, so what you need to do is make sure that the DS260 has your accurate name, right? Your name is established by your birth certificate and your passport. It's not really established by your educational documents. And so if they've got a mistake of a letter or one of the names is dropped from the educational documents, that's really not that important. It's not as important to establish your name as your birth certificate and your passport, right? So what you can do is in the DS260, use the section on other names used or other names, and you can show that you've gone by a different version of the name that you use, right? You can do that. My kids were born in the USA. I did not include them on the original application. Should I mention them on the DS260? Do you have children? Is this children emigrating with you? Right. So I would include them on the DS260. And when you answer the questions about are they immigrating with you, no is the answer to that one. So you don't need a DS260 for them, and you answer that question, the second question, no, but you do list them on your DS260. You won't be punished for not listing them or whatever. There's no problem with that particular thing. It's just that if you want to be precise about it on the DS260, just say that the children are not immigrating or emigrating with you, which is more accurate. They're citizens already. They don't need to emigrate. Michelle, DV2021, 2022, born in China and married to an Australian, received a police report from China in 2011 when he was applying for citizenship. And then continues after that. I had 2 short visits, hopefully short visits, hopefully you weren't shot. To China as an Australian citizen. Do you think Chinese police report is from 2011? Get a new one. Why wouldn't you? You had visits since the 2011, so right there is an indication that you need a new police report. But just, instead of trying to appear with a 10-year-old police report, just get a new one. Just makes sense, doesn't it? Zohali, I think I'd already updated about the DV2020. We're just waiting, right? There's nothing more that I can say about that. Okay. Do underweight matter in medical tests of DV2022? Lots of love from Nepal. Why would underweight? There are fat people in America. There are thin people in America. There's every type of person, right? Why would they care if you're underweight? Honestly, the medical is to make sure that you haven't got some disease that you're going to spread to people in America. They don't care whether you've got one leg shorter than the other, whether you're skinny or fat, whether you've got tattoos, whether you've got long hair. They don't care about. And I've been asked about all of those things I just mentioned. They don't care, right? The medical is to establish that you're not carrying disease into the country. As simple as that, right? There is also an aspect about the medical to make sure that you're fit enough in order to make a living here, to be able to survive and not become a public charge. And so that's why they consider, for example, drug use, or they consider any diseases or illnesses, perhaps not diseases, but illnesses that would make you unable to work here. But that's about your working here or surviving here. That's not about whether you're skinny or fat or something in between or oddly shaped or whatever. Doesn't matter. I lost a part of my finger. It didn't stop me coming here. I'm fat. Didn't stop me coming here. There's 320 million people live here. There's all sorts of shapes and sizes. Nadir, what's the scenario that can get an 80K number to receive 2NL? I'm trying to understand this myself, but I can't. Okay, so I've explained before. So people often ask me in the past, and regularly ask me, how KCC process documents, right? Is it in case number order or is it not? It generally is in case number order, generally, right? But there are times at which, over the whole year, etc., that they might have got to no waiting cases. And when they get to no waiting cases, then clearly, if they've got a pile, imagine a pile of papers. It's not like this, but imagine it's like this. Imagine they've got a pile of papers. They will sort that pile of papers, applications, into a case number order, starting at the top, right? And so the lowest case number would be at the top. So they start working the case numbers. If they got to the bottom, the case number on the bottom could be an 80K case, Africa 80K, right? And so if they did get to the point on any given day, or right at the beginning of the processing, that the 80K case was the last one that they have to process, then that guy gets processed. If that guy was processed back in August of last year, and he was ready for scheduling back in August of last year because they processed his DS260, they asked him for documents, he sent his documents, you know, and all of that happened by August of last year or something like that, then he will get scheduled before you that just sent in your documents in March, right? Because you're both now current. The fact that you're 20,000 and he's 80,000 means nothing anymore because both cases are current, right? So that's how it works. I hope that's clear. Should be. I want to have nose surgery. Is it normal? There you go. There's another one. What the hell would your nose surgery, you know, why would we care? Why would the doctor care about your nose surgery? This is another classic one. This is one I'll add to the list. I had someone ask me, I've got one leg shorter than the other and this sort of thing. But why would we care whether your nose needs surgery or not? Of course that's not going to matter. Oh dear, I'm sorry to laugh, Mohammed, but it's just the thing that goes through people's minds. It's just about whether you're bringing disease to the country. That's all that medical is for. Legion Magadud. EU 26K, DS260 sent in April, no mail to send required documents, plaintiff and good luck. Are you telling me you didn't send your bloody documents? Oh. You don't need the email to send your documents. Send your bloody documents. You may as well do it now, right? You're probably too late, but you may as well do it. And you're a plaintiff in good luck. You should know better. Send your bloody documents. You don't need to be asked to send your documents. Send your bloody documents, right? Did I make that clear? Hashtag send your documents. Oh, man. Oh, lots of people asking about DV2020 here. I think I've answered that question, but yeah, just nothing to say about DV2020. I've answered that many times over the last few months. What's your opinion on how many cases will get processed or an interview by September 2021? Good question. I think they're gonna process. They're gonna schedule around about 1,000 to maybe 1,500 cases at the high end per month, right? So we've got 3,700 cases, about 6,300 people scheduled or already processed for interviews right now. I think they'll add around about 3,000 cases at the very most. I don't think it's going to be 3,000, maybe 2,500 cases will actually get set up. Now I'm ignoring the lawsuits, right? I'm pretending like the lawsuits don't exist. So, you know, we would see maybe 10,000, 15,000 visas issued at very most, something in that range, which would mean we would see 40,000 visas just wasted. Horrible situation. There's a Ghana one, Seth Tim. Okay, so you're AF379. Do you mean case number 379 or do you mean 37,900? But anyway, you're in Ghana and you received your 2NL for interview in July. Although it is still showing in transit in SEAC. This is my suspicion. Thanks for your immense help. You're very welcome. I'm just thankful that ACRA finally have got off their asses and done something. You know, thank goodness. You know, I'm hopeful we get through. Yeah, it is the notorious one. Yeah, exactly. Just prepare very well. As long as you've been honest all the time, as long as you're qualified,
There's nothing unusual about your case, then you've got a good chance. Roughly about 20% of cases do get approved in ACRA. I always, there are certain countries and embassies that come up on my mind a lot, right? And it's not that I have any great love for Ghana. I'm sure it's a wonderful country. I've never been there. I want to go there. But Ghana is one of the countries that's always been on my mind because it's been an interesting country for many years in the DV lottery program. A massive increase in number of entries, massive increase in fraud, massive increase in refusals. It's been an interesting story. Nepal is another one that has always interested me. I'm interested in all the countries. I love all the countries equally. But obviously, I get more people from certain countries, more people from Egypt, more people from Nepal, more people from Ghana. So that's why I talk about Ghana sometimes. Abu says, sorry, I forgot to mention that I don't receive the interview date from KCC. Last email I received from them. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I answered this earlier. You qualified that a little bit, but yeah, I don't know for sure if you'll get an interview. My friend selected DV2022, but he overstayed before for 8 years in the USA and he backed his country in 2012. Is there a problem? Right, so what he's going to have to do is find out the specific date in 2022 when he left, because the day he left, he would have been banned from that point for 10 years. And so let's say that 10 years runs out in February the 14th, Valentine's Day in 2022. I'm picking a date. He should therefore plan to interview after February, to make sure that the 10-year ban is no longer in place. And he should be honest about the fact that he overstayed his visa before. He should be very, very honest through the process. Frankly, disrespecting the laws of any country's immigration system is not a good thing. But asking for immigration benefits from America, having previously disrespected the laws about immigration in America, obviously creates a risk. But if he's over that 10 years, then technically he can still be approved. But he must be honest and upfront about it. If he tries to lie or if he tries to pretend or whatever, it's not going to go well for him, because he can be denied for any reason. They can deny a case for whatever reason they want, right? But they're unlikely to deny it if it's after that 10 years and he's served his punishment. I'm DV2021 winner, says Alvin, but I'm lost. Any update on interview and second email? I've been explaining, Alvin. I'm sorry that you're lost. I understand. I hope you've gone through the process as much as you can. You sent in your DS260. You sent in your documents. Hopefully you've received the email that says you're ready for scheduling, and hopefully you've got a low case number, and hopefully your embassy is open. If all of those things are true, then you might get an interview. Can you imagine how stupid a situation we're in, where I have to qualify, if you've done this, and 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 your embassy is open, and your embassy feels happy that day, or whatever bullshit we have to sort of go through, then maybe you might get an interview. And that's what I have to say to people these days. It shouldn't be like that. It should be much more straightforward than that. But unfortunately, that's the situation we're in, and so I can't predict what's going to happen. So hey, stop asking this question, please. Juliet, any hopes for DV2020? You asked earlier, and I've already answered. Nikki, how are you? How's LA? Have you found fame and fortune in LA yet? Well, more fame than you already had. I hope things are going well, and a happy Sunday to you too. Okay, Jose. Place where they take. Okay, I was thinking embassies. KCC, set the date for interview and confirm it my consular web appointment in ASC. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Jose. I'm not quite sure what's going on. The ASCs where they take your biometrics are normally associated with field offices in America. I'm not quite sure what's going on in your case, Jose. Could you perhaps ask me a question on my blog? Might be better, because
I'm not quite sure what's going on with your case. Mr. Britt. Hi, Mr. Britt. Don't was wrong. Don't was wrong. Ken, just keep waiting. My case number is 30,100. I don't know what you're saying. Can you keep waiting? Yeah, you can keep waiting. Once September 30th is come and gone, the waiting will be over. Neda, if the time period finishes, is there any chance to extend the time frame? Before September 30th, we will know, I believe, what will be the final outcome in the DV2020 case. And the DV2020 case, where an extension of time sort of happened because 9,000 visas were preserved, that will set a precedent that we can use for DV2021 if the 9,095 visas are allowed to be issued for DV2020, then it will help us get a similar sort of judgment in DV2021. We'll have to wait and see, but we will know in time. Okay, a couple more questions because I'm well over an hour here, so I apologize for that. AF3K submitted my DS260 2 days after the lottery results. Should I send my documents? Oh, God. Oh, no, you're DV2022. Right, so you submitted your DS260 really early. You're a low case number. KCC, frankly, probably should have already requested them, but you can go ahead and send them in. If you'd like an early appointment, like an October or November interview, then yeah, go ahead and send them in. The only problem with sending your documents without being asked to send in your documents is that KCC have been losing documents in the past. And so that risk is increased a little bit, but as time goes on, I'll explain a little bit more about how you might be able to check on that. And we know that the problem exists, so I'll be able to advise you and others about how you check whether they've received your documents, are they satisfied with your documents, etc. And hopefully, once things return back to normal at KCC, hopefully that will be effective. It's been a bloody shambles for the last 2 years, but particularly over the last year because of COVID. But it's been a shambles for the last 2 years anyway. So I hope things are going to get better. Okay. If you missed an old social media account, doesn't really matter. It's a trivial thing. You do the best you can to be honest and transparent and accurate. But if you forget one old social media account, it's not going to cause a problem. Step by step, your AF3 something winner, and I've already submitted, but you received your interview location is not open for immigration visas. What's your advice? You don't make clear what case number you're at. The way you've written your case number there, it could be a 30,000 number, it could be a 3,000 number, it could be a 300 number, I don't know. If it's a 30,000 number, your case is not going to be interviewed until well into next year anyway, well into 2022, right? Probably March or April or something like that, before 30,000 something cases are going to be ready. So so your embassy is not open for immigration visas today, but that's got nothing to do with what the position will be in early 2022, right? So there's no point in worrying about it. Just for now, just let things carry on and see what happens later. No need to panic about that now. Okay. All right. Is it necessary to bring out the I-134 and bring it to the interview? Bear in mind, you don't fill it out. You get someone to fill it out on your behalf, and that person should be someone in America that you know who is a resident and taxpayer. I would suggest, yes, bring it to the interview. You should do. It's important. So, you prepare properly, including the financial perspective. Okay, DV2022, you've got to list all education degrees, only listed the highest level. Will I be disqualified? You won't be disqualified, Pravin. No, you wouldn't be disqualified for that. It's a shame you didn't follow the instructions, but but no, you won't be disqualified. If you've got a high case number, your DV2022, I would tend to suggest unlocking and correcting your DS260. I don't suggest that to people in DV2021 at this point because time is short, but you've got time to wait, right? Depending on what your case number is, you may have a long time to wait. And you should have listed all of your education from age 12 and up, right? So it's not just a matter of what your highest degree level is. Okay. What do I say about Go and Good Luck being consolidated? I don't say anything about it really. That's up to the lawyers and the judge mainly. I've got no input on that. DV2022 didn't send the documents, started working on it. I live in Turkey, but I'm from Iraq and lived in Iraq only 3 months after the age of 16. Okay. So be overly cautious with your documents, Ahmed. Get the police certificate for Iraq if such a thing exists. Get all your documents together, send them in, and do that fairly quickly. Because you're because you're from Iraq, you may find that it takes a little bit longer to process. But get your documents ready and get them sent in. Whether they ask you for the documents or not, send them in. Okay. I'll answer this one as the last question just because it's a great name. Alcatraz infection. I haven't received the documents confirmation yet. I'm a DV2021 winner, 11K. I have participated in the Good Luck versus Biden. How many chances do I have to get the interview? This is one of these things where you're asking for Las Vegas style odds, and I can't predict a percentage or how many chances, as you put it. Being on the lawsuit could help you. It's not a guarantee by any means. You'll have to wait and see what the outcome is through the lawsuit or not, or just through normal processing. I can't predict your chances. But I can say that your chances are better if you've got a low case number, if you had your documents processed early, if your embassy is scheduling lots of interviews. All of those things are helpful. And the fact that you're on the Good Luck lawsuit will help as well. But you have to wait and see. Apart from that, case number is 11K. You don't mention the region, so I don't know what your case number means. Okay, right, that's it. I'm happy to have spoken to you all today. I hope that was helpful for some of you. I'm very conscious that I need to do a little bit more to support the people going through the DV2022 process. I'm going to be producing some more videos on the individual steps. I've produced all the videos you need. They are available in my YouTube channel, explaining many aspects of how you process your case. But I'll update some of them and I'll refer to some of them and create lists so that you can navigate through those videos and through pages on my blog so that you can process your cases. All right, and then for DV2020, I haven't forgotten you. We're still waiting for answers. And for DV2021, my fingers are crossed. I'm hoping as many of you as possible get through. And I'm hoping for some positive impact for the named plaintiffs in the lawsuits, but also the non-named plaintiffs, people that didn't participate in the lawsuit. Hopefully there'll be some sort of a positive impact from the lawsuits, for all people. We'll have to see. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye now.